In graduate school, you're going to find that you have a number of opportunities. You're going to have opportunities to do research, you're going to have opportunities to serve on committees, and you're going to have opportunities to do teaching. And today's question centers around opportunities for teaching as it relates to being able to help you get employment and the job that you want. How much teaching should you expect to have on your resume when you graduate and enter the job market? And what are employers looking for in this regard? That's coming up in today's video. Hi everyone, I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia to make your best impact. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get new notifications because I put out new videos every week. So today we have a question about teaching. How much teaching should you expect to have on your resume when you graduate, and what are employers looking for in this regard? Now, in terms of what employers are looking for, there is no hard and fast rule here. There's not like you must have taught like X number of classes or this many years at the college level. There is nothing like that going on. And what people are going to look for probably varies depending on your employment goals. So if you know you want to go to an institution, if you're going to seek a job that's very teaching heavy, then yes, I would prioritize teaching more during my graduate experience. But that doesn't mean you want to prioritize in the sense of having no research experience. I would still make sure I had research experience, but if I knew I wanted to go to an institution where I'd be teaching more and researching less, and I'd make sure I have a heavier, I'd try to have a heavier teaching load during my graduate program. But in general, you do want a good mix of teaching and research experience because employers are going to want to know that you can do both, right? They might expect you to do one more than the other, but they want to know that you can do both well, so you want to be able to demonstrate that. So what really matters then? First, you want to teach classes that are relevant to your area, okay? And you think, well, yeah, of course, I can't teach classes that are not relevant to my area because I don't have that expertise. But there might be some courses that are sort of tangential to your area, but that are not going to serve you. So what do I mean by that? So when I went to graduate school, before I went to graduate school, I was a 6th grade language arts and social studies teacher, okay? And when I went to graduate school, I was focusing on literacy education and how can we help teachers address the literacy needs of adolescents. But people weren't quite sure what to do with me because they thought that because I had taught social studies, that maybe I could teach undergraduate pre-service teachers social studies methods classes. And I did do that for one semester, but I actually ended up leaving it off my vita because it just didn't serve me. I didn't want to position myself as a social studies person. I didn't want to position myself as somebody who worked with social studies teachers. So while yes, I was kind of sort of qualified to teach that class, it wasn't my passion, it wasn't my interest, I didn't want employers looking at that and thinking, either being confused about what to do with me or thinking that I could teach those classes when I definitely did not want to teach those classes. And ultimately, I'm not qualified. By the time I had graduated and developed my expertise, that really was not what I was qualified to do. So that's an example of thinking about something. Do you want to teach courses that are relevant to your field? Okay. And the other thing, that I would say is, if you're teaching the same class every time you teach, that's fine. I mean, it's good to teach a class more than once. You're going to get that experience, and most likely when you get a job, you're going to be teaching some of these classes, not all the time, but you're probably going to teach them more than once, and it'd be nice if you can teach them more than once. So I think it's okay because especially in graduate school, you're going to have limited options in terms of what you're allowed to teach. So if you taught the same class the entire time you're in grad school, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think what you want to do within that is show people how you, how you have thought about your teaching, how you've thought about developing your teaching as you, taught this class multiple times. I know that as a professor, my first position, I probably taught the same class. I was there for 12 years, probably taught the same class 8 or 9 times. I can talk to you about how I thought about the trajectory of that class, how I changed the content over time, how I changed what we did and why. So teaching the same class is a really nice opportunity to dig into your teaching and to be really thoughtful about it and to be able to go to a committee when you interview and talk to them about how your teaching has evolved within this class. It can evolve even if you taught a different class every time. And I would still encourage you to focus on that. But that's one way because you have limited options as a graduate student. So if you are teaching the same class a lot, that is one way to make the best of it. Okay. The other thing that I would stress is if you have an opportunity to teach online or to teach hybrid courses, again, that's relevant to your area, I would absolutely snatch it up. And it could be like that might be that you're not in charge of the class. You might be a TA. Or maybe you can't teach. Maybe there's online classes, but you're just not allowed to teach them because faculty are teaching them. There's no need for them to have you teach them. Go and ask if you can volunteer to be a TA to help work with that faculty member. And I'm telling you this because if you can't do it as part of your assistantship, volunteering is potentially a very good use of your time because so many classes are online these days that, employers want to know, do you have this experience? If you don't have this experience, it's not always, it's not something that's necessarily in your control, right? And I think we recognize that. But it's something that, if you show up to your job and you have to do it, it's going to take a lot of time, thought, and effort, more so than ramping up for a face-to-face class, which you're probably going to be used to at least a face-to-face context. So get some experience with online teaching or hybrid teaching if possible. That will serve you well. It'll at least let you be able to talk a little bit about it in a letter or at your interview, okay? But really what we're talking about here, the original question was how much teaching should we have? And while I said there's no real hard and fast answer, if you think about maybe like 5 years to complete a PhD, I would say within that, hopefully you taught 3 to 4 times, okay? You could teach more. Maybe you taught 1 or 2 times. That's not going to be super strong. I would aim for teaching 3 to 4. If you can do more and also balance that with getting research experience, and that's great. But again, some of this is going to be limited and beyond your control. So make the best of the situation. And if you have to, find a way to volunteer to get additional teaching experience. All right, so thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch all of my videos. And while you're at it, head down to the comments and talk to me. Like, what are you finding your teaching opportunities are in graduate school? What do you want them to be? Are you volunteering to work with someone? What does that look like? What are your successes? What are your challenges? How can we come together to support you have the career that you want to have?